The National Electoral Council of Venezuela requested the foreign ministry to bring the truth about the transparency of the Venezuelan electoral system to the world. Peru's National Congress denied the two motions demanding the impeachment of President Dina Boluarte. And Palestinian health authorities reported more than 1 million illnesses as a result of the escalating Israeli siege. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The National Electoral Council of Venezuela requested the foreign ministry to bring the truth about the transparency of the Venezuelan electoral system to the world. The president of the Electoral Council, Elvis Amoroso, held on Thursday a meeting with the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil to discuss the development of the electoral process and the presidential elections of next July 28, 2024. During the meeting, Amoroso pointed out that the doors of the country are open for international observers, but it would not allow them to interfere in the actions of the CNE and the electoral process. For his part, Foreign Minister Ivan Gil emphasized that invitations were sent to more than 67 electoral organizations, as well as to a series of personalities. The diplomat also reiterated that the country has a reliable electoral system of which the Venezuelan people can be proud. In Venezuela, the government rejected the recent declarations of Guyana regarding the law for the defense of Guayana Esequiba enacted by the executive branch. In an official statement, the government of Venezuela fully and categorically rejects the statement issued on April 3, 2024 by the government of Guyana on the enactment of the organic law for the defense of Guayana Esequiba. It also stressed that the approval of the aforementioned law is a sovereign act, which is the sole responsibility of Venezuelans, and its objective is to defend and preserve the unquestionable rights of Venezuela over the territory of Guayana Esequiba. Likewise, it assured that Venezuela reiterates that it does not recognize the judicial mechanism as a means of resolving the territorial dispute with Guyana, as it excludes the nature and purpose of the Geneva Agreement, and it denounces the dangerous maneuvers designed by ExxonMobil. Peru's National Congress denied the two motions demanding the impeachment of President Dina Boluarte. The Peruvian parliament, without any opportunity for debate, rejected the impeachment motions against Boluarte for the so-called Rolex case. Boluarte is accused of alleged illicit enrichment, along with other crimes. The first motion, presented accusing the president of permanent moral incapacity, was rejected with 49 votes against and 33 in favor. The second motion, mentioning signs of alleged corruption on the part of Boluarte, with jury worth $500,000 was denied with 59 votes against and 32 in favor. And during the second edition of his program on social media, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel provided an update on the regulated family food basket and the government's efforts to guarantee it in spite of the strengthening of the U.S. blockade.
In the end, the products of the basket, the situation with these products, their quantities, all these issues have always been the same. And until a few months ago, we guaranteed the baskets on a regular basis. And at the end of the month, we always had the complete baskets in the stores and we distributed. What are the reasons why we are having this situation of incomplete baskets and delays? Because once more, the strengthening of the blockade comes up, which is real. And at this very moment, the strengthening of the blockade is affecting us in two main sectors. The energy sector, which is limiting us greatly because of the financial persecution, and every time we denounce that energy persecution, the politicians of the United States government say it is not true and that we are making it up, and it is getting increasingly difficult for us to guarantee that the fuel we need arrives in the country.
The Cuban head of state reiterated the fuel shortage in the country caused by the U.S. blockade against the Caribbean island complicates the distribution of the basic food basket.
Therefore, the fuel issue, what we are suffering due to the lack of fuel because of the blockade, has been one of the main issues of the current situation we are passing through. And the other problem is the lack of financing, which also has to do with the intensification of the blockade. And it is a titanic task for us today to look for $230 million every month to guarantee the basic food basket, the products of the food basket that we have to distribute, and we have to make that clear.
The Cuban president also pointed out that U.S. policies against the island seek to stifle the Cuban economy.
The distribution of the basic food basket is one of the things in which every day, every hour, every moment, there are constant checkups. There are constant efforts to find ways to overcome all these difficulties, but it has to do with this aggressive genocidal policy with which we are being condemned for our desire to maintain our sovereignty and independence. As a country with self-determination, which is part of this strategy of economic asphyxiation supplemented on other occasions by media intoxication.
In Haiti, amid a situation described by human rights activists as a holocaust, thousands of people try to save themselves from gang violence. The government extends the state of emergency as the only solution. In this context, the incumbent government will extend the state of emergency for the entire Western Department until May 3rd. The measure, communicated by Michel Patrick Boisper, the interim minister, implies a curfew from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., in addition to the prohibition to hold meetings or demonstrations. According to the United Nations, at least 6,500 people have died in the last 15 months in a violent manner in the country. The updated data are unknown. And on Thursday, April 4th, we remember the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., the prominent United States pastor and civil rights activist who was fatally shot in 1968 at the age of 39. Before being assassinated by James Earl Ray, he had been closely watched for decades by the FBI, which had labeled him as the most dangerous man in the country. From a child, Martin Luther King demonstrated a deep religious faith and great gift for oratory and debate. He suffered racial segregation in person at age 13 when he had to give up his seat on a bus to a white passenger for the sole reason that he was black. From then on, he set out to fight for equal rights for blacks and whites. On October 14th of 1964, he received the Nobel Peace Prize. After this recognition, the objective of his fight expanded, protesting also against poverty and the Vietnam War. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, the health situation continues to deteriorate amid the ongoing Israeli siege of Gaza. More details with our correspondent Noor Harasin.
We are now inside the Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital, which is located in Deir al-Balah City in Middle Gaza. And let me take you around to show you how is the situation here inside the hospital. First of all, this is the emergency entrance, and here we have beds that are not only for the injured people, but is also for those people, those displaced people who lost their homes in the Israel's war in Gaza. Here we are inside the emergency section, and as you can see, the situation is going from bad to worse comparing to our last visit to this place. And let me mention something. The hospitals, and since day one, have been lacking medicine, medical supplies, equipment, even the very little needs are not available here in the Gaza Strip. Even though there is some humanitarian aid that is being allowed in the coastal enclave, however, the distribution in Middle Gaza is very rare. Noor Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
Palestinian health authorities reported more than 1 million illnesses as a result of the escalating Israeli siege on the aggression against the Gaza Strip last October 7th. The report of the Health Emergency Operations Center states that there are at least 32,348 cases of hepatitis A. The number of respiratory infections exceeds 578,845 cases. It also reports several cases of acute diarrhea, skin eruptions, lice infections, scabies, and smallpox. The health agency highlighted the actions of the Israeli occupation forces that caused the destruction of around 155 health centers in Gaza and left some 53 medical facilities out of service. In the Middle East, preliminary investigations indicate that the troops of the Israeli occupier deliberately killed the members of the humanitarian organization World Central Kitchen. The route followed by the 8 workers on Monday, April 1st, was fixed by Tel Aviv. The humanitarian caravan followed the plan delivered by the Ministry of Defense. The vehicles were duly identified as well as their occupants, with names, sex, nationality, and their function within that organization. The key fact is that after bombing the first vehicle, the 8 workers who were traveling the second one informed the Israeli army. Nevertheless, they were bombed a second time. For the UN reporter Francesca Albanese, there was no doubt Israel killed the 7 aid workers deliberately. We remain in Palestine. The United Nations issued a warning about the food crisis faced by the population, which could lead to famine at any moment. The non-governmental organization Oxfam International stated that the Palestinians require 221 trucks a day to avoid famine and meet their basic needs, while the occupation forces only allowed the entry of 105. This situation places the Gaza Strip population in a situation of vulnerability. Likewise, Israel has not complied with the order of the United Nations Supreme Court to prevent genocide and guarantee the delivery of humanitarian aid to the area. Israeli occupation forces detained since yesterday evening and early morning at least 40 Palestinians, including 3 women and prisoners freed from Israeli jails from the occupied West Bank. The Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs Commission and the Palestinian Prisoner Society stated that detention operations focused on occupied Jerusalem. The remaining detentions took place in the governorates of Hebron, Nablus, and Tulkarem, and other areas. This brings the total number of Palestinians detained since October 7th to about 8,030, including those who were detained from their homes at military checkpoints, those who surrendered under pressure, and those who were taken as hostages. Israel is on high alert, awaiting an Iranian response following the deadly attack on the Persian embassy in Syria. After receiving an alert from their U.S. allies, they called up several ranks of reservists after deciding in an urgent meeting to reinforce their air defense system. A military spokesman confirmed to Israeli Channel 12 that the state of alert in the occupied territories has reached its maximum. Some days later denounced that Benjamin Netanyahu's decisions against Syria, Iran, and Lebanon are taking the conflict to a dangerous and very significant scale. Parliamentarians claim that the premier is thinking of his political stability and not of the country. We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, threatened to withdraw the country from the European Convention on Human Rights if the deportation plan is blocked. The British Premier hinted Wednesday that he is ready to request the country's withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights in the event that the Strasbourg Court blocks the draft law of the migration agreement signed with Rwanda that has as its flagship measure the deportation of asylum seekers. Sunak stated that controlling borders and the entry of illegal migrants is more important than being a member of the foreign court. In addition, the High Commissioner of the United Nations European Court for Human Rights calls Sunak's deportation plan a violation of vital human rights protections. On Thursday, the spokesman of the Russian presidential office, Dmitry Peskov, assured that between his country and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization there is already a direct confrontation. The Kremlin spokesman assured during a press conference that the military bloc is not increasing tensions but is directly involved in the conflict around Ukraine. He warned that NATO's moves towards Russian borders weaken the security and stability of the continent. On Thursday, the organization, whose foundation is linked to generals of the Third Reich, reaches the 75th anniversary of its creation, shrouded in shadows and doubts. Southeast Africa is severely affected by El Niño weather phenomenon. This Thursday, the president of Zimbabwe declared a state of natural disaster due to the drought hitting the region. The announcement by Emerson Mnangagwa makes the country, after Zambia and Malawi, the third country to enter this level of contingency due to the prolonged drought that has ruined thousands of hectares of sown fields. For this reason, the executive orders the mobilization of resources to help numerous families who are on the verge of starvation. According to official figures, the country has a grain deficit of 680,000 tons of grain. Due to poor rains, more than 2.7 million people will not have enough food to put on the table this year. In France, the Olympic Aquatic Center, one of just two new facilities constructed in the Paris region for the 2024 Olympics, was inaugurated this Thursday. The formal handover to the Paris 2024 organizers took place with the presence of French President Emmanuel Macron. The center's pool, which holds more than 5,500 cubic meters of water, was initially filled in mid-December 2023. Equipped with over 4,000 solar panels, the center's design aids in heating pool water to 27 degrees Celsius, according to architect Laure Mériode. The building's concave wooden beam structure also efficiently limits the space requiring heating and ventilation. Featuring 5,000 seats for spectators, including 2,000 removable ones, the venue is set to host artistic swimming and diving competitions along with the water polo tournament's qualifying rounds. Meanwhile, tourists and residents packed Tokyo's top cherry blossom spots on Thursday to enjoy the full bloom that has arrived later than usual this year because of cold weather in the Japanese capital. The elegant dark branches bursting with pink and white flowers, known as sakura in Japanese, spill over the moat of the Imperial Palace, where people gather to snap photos or simply take in the view. Sakura season traditionally accompanies the beginning of the new fiscal year in Japan, representing fresh starts, but also the fleeting impermanence of life. The Japanese Meteorological Agency declared on Thursday that the country's most common and popular Somei Yoshino variety of cherry tree was in full bloom 4 days later than average for the city.
I've been to Japan once in the summer and once in, late winter. It was late February, beginning of March. And some trees were blossoming, but not all of them. So this trip, my partner and I planned specifically around when it was supposed to be the peak cherry blossom in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, where we traveled. But no, I think the overall festivities around it are great and something that I expected, or the sakura-flavored desserts. And I think we attended sakura festivals in all the 3 cities that we visited. So it definitely lived up to the expectations.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.